Hello and welcome. This is Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. It's been quite a while since I've last played Bannerlord, and I thought it was about time I jumped back into the game with a new campaign to show off some of the gameplay and play around with some of the features that they've expanded upon or added in since I last played the game. And maybe also make some general comments as to features that I would like to see added in or expanded upon, or features that are still notably lacking from Bannerlord that were in the previous game, Mountain Blade Warband. So we're playing on the latest beta version of Bannerlord, version 1.8, and I think the last time I played was either version 1.4 or 1.5. But anyway, without too much further ado, we'll jump in here with a new campaign and see how we go.
For 500 years, the Calradian Empire dominated the continent. Its armies scattered foes before them. The strongholds of proud tribes crumbled beneath its engines of war. From the forests of the north to the wastes of the south, all was brought beneath the standard of their legions. Brutal as the conquest was, the wise agreed that it brought peace. The land, now untroubled by armies, grew rich. But empires, like men, grow old. Leaders lose a common cause. Corruption spreads. Old enemies learn the Empire's tricks and devise new ones of their own. Until one day, the bonds holding the Empire snap. Then comes the Civil War, pitting all against all. A time of hatred. A time of suffering. But also, even in the worst hours, a time of courage and defiance. As new leaders arise, from new places and new peoples, to turn back the tides of destruction and bring forth a new world from the ashes of the old.
Alright, that was a pretty nifty intro cinematic, some nice artwork there. I don't think I've seen that before, or if I have, I certainly don't recall having seen it. It may be that I've just skipped it in previous games. But that gives a bit of background as to the setting of Mountain Blade Bannerlord. For those of you who don't know, it's set in a fictional universe, which is loosely equivalent to the sort of Middle Ages, I guess, in our world. And it's set on the continent of Calradia, which, as the intro cinematic sort of explained, was ruled by an empire, Calradian Empire, which is now in the midst of a civil war. And there's all these other sort of factions and cultures that are vying for power. It's not a fantasy RPG in the sense that there's no dungeons or dragons or magic or anything like that. It's very much a more realistic medieval open world sandbox style RPG. So think more Kingdom Come Deliverance and less Skyrim, although they're not quite exactly like either of those games, and you'll see what I mean when we get into it. But anyway, now we have to choose the culture for our character. We've got 6 options to choose from. We've got the Vlandians, the Sturgians, the Empire, the Archery, the Khuzaits, and the Battalions. Each of these cultures is fictional, but they are loosely based on historical counterparts, or sometimes ethnic groups or geographical locations. So for instance, the Battalions are most similar to the Irish Celts, the Scottish Picts, or the Gauls in Dark Ages France, or pre-Dark Ages France. So think forest-dwelling tribal pagans that have face paint and tattoos and all that sort of stuff, wielding two-handed axes, that kind of thing. So that's the Battalions. Each culture will get 2 bonuses and 1 penalty. So you can see the Battalions, they have a lower speed penalty when moving in forests, and also an increased sight range bonus in forests. Their towns have +1 militia production, but their town projects and settlements build 10% slower. So that's the Battalions. The Khuzaits, they are based on the nomadic steppe tribes in Eastern Europe and Asia. So you're looking at the Mongols, the Cumans, the Kipchaks, the Horse Lords, essentially. That's what the Khuzaits are based on. So, as one would expect, they have bonuses to recruiting and upgrading mounted troops. Basically, they're cheaper, 10% cheaper. And they also have production bonuses to horses, mules, cows, and sheep, all the herd animals except pigs. And then their penalty is that their towns bring in less tax income. The Asurai are a desert culture. You would be looking at the Arabs in North Africa. I think Arabia, Libya, Andalusia, the Abbasid Caliphate, pretty much all of North Africa and the Middle East, the Arabic traders and camel caravans and all that. So consequently, the Asurai have 30% cheaper caravans. They've got a 10% less trade penalty. They have no speed penalty on desert terrain, but the daily wages of their troops are increased by 5%. Then you have the Empire. The Empire is like the closest historical counterpart of the Empire is the Roman Empire, but the names and the gear that the Empire characters in this game wear is more similar and reminiscent to the Eastern Roman Empire, or maybe the Byzantine Empire, than it is to the Western Roman Empire. So you have names like Irenicos and other more Greek-sounding names, and also what they wear, and you'll see what I mean when we come across them in the game. But it's, as I said, a lot more similar to the Byzantine Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire than it is to the Western Roman Empire in Italy. Then we have the Sturgians. The Sturgians are pretty much Scandinavian peoples, Nordic tribal warriors, pagans again. Not that religion plays too much of a role in the world of Mount and Blade, Bannerlord. But yeah, most similar to Vikings, arguably also Slavic pagans in Russia, Estonia, Lithuania. I suppose there's some influence from them in some of the names of places. But yeah, pretty much think Viking / northern tribal pagan, and that's the Sturgians. And then last but not least, you've got the Vlandians. The Vlandians are the most reminiscent of Western feudal Europe. So think France in the Middle Ages, Britain in the Middle Ages. You've got knights, you've got squires, you've got kings and lords and ladies. That's the Vlandians. And I think it's the Vlandians that we are going to play for our character. So the Vlandians are the descendants of adventurers from the West who lived under the Empire for centuries before forming an independent kingdom. With the decline of imperial authority, they have evolved into a well-organized feudal society led by a caste of warlike nobles who prefer to fight with spears and lances on horseback. And as a Vlandian, we will get 5% more renown from battles and 15% more income while serving as a mercenary. We'll also have a 10% production bonus to villages that are bound to castles to sort of reflect the feudal societal structure. But the penalty is that recruiting lords to armies will cost us 20% more influence, so our armies may not be as big as the other factions, or if they are, they'll be a bit more costly in terms of political influence. Okay, so Vlandia it is. And now we have to create our character. You have quite a number of options here: skin color, voice pitch, height, weight, build. Then you can do a whole bunch of things with the face, and you can change the eyes, nose, mouth, hair, and then finally you can select sort of tattoos and scars. I don't think there are piercings, but there are like face markings and scars. I've already created the character we're going to play, so I'm just going to paste in that character's body properties here. So this is the character we'll play. You can see I've given him a very kind of medieval-ish looking haircut, moustache and goatee. He's got some scars there on his face. I'm just noticing now he looks quite a bit like Sir Radzig from Kingdom Come Deliverance, if any of you have played that. I created this character a while ago. I can't recall if I'd already played Kingdom Come Deliverance or not. I don't think I based this character off of Sir Radzig, but I may have. So anyway, this is the character we'll play. For those of you who don't know how I pasted the body property data in, it's very simple. You just come to this screen, finish creating your character, and then just click Control-C, and that'll copy all of the relevant data that you need for your character. Just Alt-Tab then to a Word document or a text document, paste with Control-V, that'll paste all the data, and you just save it, and save it somewhere. And then the next time you want to play that character, you come back into the game, come back to this screen, Alt-Tab, copy the data, tab back into this screen, and then Control-V to paste it, and it'll load up your character's face. Easy peasy. Now we're going to pick voice.
Make a circle! Advance! Advance! Die! Shield forward! At them! Keep your ground! Side by side!
I like voice 4.
Look at them run!
I think we'll go for voice 4. We'll lower the pitch a bit.
Side by side!
We'll make our character a little bit taller, and we'll reduce his weight a bit, and also reduce his build a bit, I think. So this is going to be our character. Maybe we'll make the build a little bit bulkier. Yeah, this will be our character, and we'll put some clothes on him. There he is, our good character. We're going to name him Arthur. So this is yeah, our character here. All right. So this is our father and our mother. Now we have to select what family we were born into. So again, the decisions we make here as to the background of our character will affect not only our starting skills and statistics, but also the gear we have and sort of our station in society. So I'll just briefly explain statistics and how the RPG elements in this game work. So you've got 6 base statistics: vigor, control, endurance, cunning, social, and intelligence. They all start at level 2. Each base statistic governs 3 skills. So vigor governs one-handed, two-handed, and polearm. Control governs bow, crossbow throwing. Endurance, riding, athletics, smithing. Social does charm, leadership, trade. Cunning does scouting, tactics, and roguery. And then lastly, intelligence does steward, medicine, and engineering. And then the way it works is you will get a number of attribute points from this, which will be allocated, and then as you level, you'll get some more attribute points. All of the attributes range from 0 to 10, 10 being the maximum. And then you'll get skills. Skills can go from level 1 to 300. I think they can go even higher than 300, but 300 is I think the last level you get a perk at for the relevant skill. It might be level 275. And the way skills level is you put focus points into the skill to make it level faster, and you will level the skill by doing actions in the game world that are associated with that skill. So using one-handed weapons will get you experience in one-handed weapons, which will level your one-handed weapon skill. Trading will get you trade experience, and that'll level your trade skill. And then depending on how many focus points you have allocated to the skill, it'll level faster or slower. You can only have a maximum of 5 focus points allocated to each skill, but I'll go through some of that when we are in the game and we get to level up. So now we have to select the family that we were born into. There's 6 options. Some of them change depending on which culture you've selected. So I think barons, retainers, yeomen, and maybe mercenaries might all be unique to Vlandia. But yeah, so these are our options. So we can go barons, retainer, we can go urban merchants, we can go yeoman, urban blacksmith, hunters, or mercenaries. I kind of want to go one of the unique options. I'm not sure if mercenaries is unique to Vlandia. But I don't want to do Baron's Retainers because I feel like we would be starting in slightly too high of a station in society. I'd rather start as more of a peasant than having our father be, riding in the Lord's cavalry as an armored knight. So we're going to go with yeoman. Our family were small farmers with just enough land to feed themselves and make a small profit. People like them were the pillars of the kingdom's economy as well as the backbone of the levy. So that'll give us 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to each of polearm and crossbow. So you can see we've got a focus point now in polearm and in crossbow. And it'll also give us 1 attribute point to endurance. Okay, so now we have to choose what we were like as a child in our early childhood. Also loving our little afro there. So as a child, we were noted for our leadership skills, our brawn, our attention to detail, our aptitude for numbers, our way with people, or our skill with horses. I think we're going to select leadership skills here. If the wolf pup gang of your early childhood had an alpha, it was definitely you. All the other kids followed your lead as you decided what to play and where to play and led them in games and mischief. So this will give us 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to leadership and tactics and 1 attribute point to cunning. But like all the village children, we also helped out in the fields, and we did this by herding the sheep, or working in the village smithy, or repairing projects, gathering herbs in the wild, hunting small game, or selling produce at the market. And I think we'll go with this last option here, selling produce at the market. It makes the most sense given that our family were yeomen and were small farmers with a bit of land. It just makes sense that we would have helped out by selling our produce at the market. So we took our family's goods to the nearest town to sell our produce and buy supplies. It was hard work, but we enjoyed the hubbub of the marketplace. We get 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to trade and charm, and 1 attribute point to social. But as a youngster growing up in Calradia, war was never too far away, and we either trained with the cavalry, or stood guard with the garrisons, rode with the scouts, trained with the infantry, joined the skirmishers, or marched with the camp followers. And I think this decision here also determines what gear you start with in the game. It's a toss-up, I think, between training with the cavalry and training with the infantry. And I think we're going to go training with the infantry because I don't think we would have been able to convince a local lord to lend us horse and equipment. And again, joining the armor cavalry is pinning us a bit high in terms of our station. I'd rather start as closer to the peasantry if I can help it. So we will have trained with the infantry, meaning we're levy armed with spear and shield, drawn from small-holding farmers, and we've always been the backbone of most armies of Calradia. And again, this sort of does make the most sense given our family were small-holding farmers. Training with the infantry, it's pretty likely that we would have been levied in this way. So we get 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to polearm and one-handed, and another attribute point, our first attribute point to vigor. Okay. Now before we set out for a life of adventure, our biggest achievement was defeating an enemy in battle, saving our village from a flood, investing some money in land, hunting a dangerous animal, having a famous escapade in town, or treating people well. I think here we'll go with defeating an enemy in battle. Not everyone who musters for the levy marches to war, and not everyone who goes on campaign sees action, but we did both, and we also took down an enemy warrior in direct one-to-one combat in the full view of our comrades. And that's how we got the scar on our face, which isn't shown here, but will be shown in the next section, and which was shown in the character creation screen. So it was a tough battle, full of blood and guts, and we won in the end and defeated the enemy, but we did not come out unscathed. And consequently, we got 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to one-handed and two-handed, and another attribute point to vigor. And we also got +1 to valor, which makes our character daring. So we're a pretty daring individual, and we won't run away from a fight. And lastly, because we were seen taking down this enemy in full view of our comrades, we also get +20 renown. Like many families in Calradia, your life was upended by war. Our home was ravaged by the passage of army after army. Eventually, we sold our property and set off with our father, mother, brother, and our 2 younger siblings to a new town that we'd heard was safer. But we did not make it. Along the way, the inn at which we were staying was attacked by raiders. Our parents were slain and our 2 youngest siblings seized. But we and our brother survived because we subdued a raider. We drove them off with arrows. We rode off on a fast horse. We tricked the raiders, or we organized the travelers to break out. Well, given that they killed our father and mother, I think there would have been too many of them for us to be able to subdue them, or subdue even one of them. We have no skill with bow and arrow, so I don't think we would have driven them off with arrows. I don't think we would have ridden off on a fast horse, primarily because we're not cowardly, but also when would we get the horse? We could have tricked them, I suppose, but I think it's more likely that our character would have marshaled the skills he developed selling produce at the market and would have organized the travelers to break out. So we encouraged a few travelers in the inn to break out in a coordinated fashion. Raiders killed or captured most, but we were able to escape with our brother. That'll give us another 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to leadership and charm, and another attribute point to social. Also really like that our father had a moustache and like beard, sort of like us, and our brother has this big biker's beard. That's pretty cool. Alright, so that is going to be our character. Now, as I said, there's a whole bunch of names that you can randomize to, but we're going to go with Arthur. And we prepare to set off with our brother on a mission of vengeance and rescue. So a quick summary of our character: we are of Vlandian culture. We come from a family of yeomen. In early childhood, we demonstrated great leadership skills. In adolescence, we sold produce at the market. In our youth, we trained with the infantry, and as a young adult, we defeated an enemy in battle. And when we were attacked by raiders at the inn, we organized the travelers to break out. Cool. Let's go. Now, for the difficulty, I'll play on Bannerlord, which is the hardest difficulty. And I'll, as you can see, leave everything on realistic. Combat AI will be challenging, which is the most difficult. And we will also tick Iron Man mode, so that we've only got 1 save game. And we'll leave all battle deaths enabled, which means that if we die, we die. That could be the end of our campaign, or we could take over as our son or daughter. It also means that companions we have in our party can also die. Let's start. Brother, it's been 3 days now. We've been tracking those bastards. I think we're getting close. We need to think about what happens when we catch them. How are we going to rescue Varric and Alda? Are we up for a fight? This looks like an old training field for the legions. Perhaps we can spare some time and brush up on our skills. The practice could come in handy when we catch up with the raiders. So do you think we'll catch up with the raiders soon? Well, the tracks look fresh, and I've seen some smoke on the horizon. They can't move too quickly if they're still looting and raiding. No, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to rescue the little ones. Or die trying. How should we prepare for the fight? Well, if they're still pillaging, they may have split up into smaller groups. Hopefully we won't need to take them all on at once, but it would help if we could hire or persuade some people to join us. Okay, I'm going to run the course. I need to know I can fight if I have to. Let's go on then. Alright, so we will do the tutorial. We'll start with the melee tutorial here. I'll take the opportunity to explain some of the mechanics for any viewers who've not yet played the game. You can see it's giving us a tutorial to move around with WASD, pretty standard stuff. Now we will use F and select this sword and shield training and go to the trainer. So the way combat works in Bannerlord is it's all directional. So you can attack, defend from a bunch of different angles, up, down, left or right. So it wants us to defend from the left, so we'll do that. Now we'll defend from the right. You can see the animations change depending on the direction we're defending, and the arrow on the side of the screen is indicating where we're attacking and defending from. So now we attack from the right and up, and attack from below, which is a thrust. So that's basic sword training. Now we'll train with a two-handed sword. Pretty much the same thing, except we won't block with the shield this time. We'll be blocking with the sword, which I think the game also calls parrying. Now we'll attack. Oh. There we go. Attack from up and attack from down. Okay, so that's basic melee training. Now we'll do some advanced training. We'll start with sword and shield. We'll go to the rookie trainer here. Now there are some more advanced combat tactics that the training tutorial here doesn't actually teach you. There's something called chambering, which is a feature from the first game. Was it the first game? Warband? Well, anyway, it is a feature from Warband, and I'm pretty sure it's in Bannerlord, but I don't know exactly what it is or how to do it. I'm not sure what the benefit is. I think it's like when you attack in exactly... It's either the same direction or at the same time or both as your opponent. You'll like block their blow with a chamber, and it allows you to, I think, attack them again a bit faster or something. If anyone knows and wants to explain it in the comments, please feel free to do so. I know there's plenty of guides that will probably explain it and how to do it, but yeah, I'm not familiar with how to do it. Alright, and lastly we'll do the the spear and shield training. Spears are quite hard to use, I find, in melee combat because you don't get... I can do a shield bash there. For those of you who don't know, you just hold the block button and then tap E. You'll do a shield bash, it staggers your opponent a bit. And if you just hit E without holding block, you'll do a kick, which also staggers your opponent, but leaves you a bit more exposed. But yeah, spears can be a bit difficult to use because you cannot strike with the spear or thrust with the spear at the same time as you're blocking. So right now I'm blocking, I'm trying to, you know, click left mouse button to attack, but it won't let me. So you can only thrust like that, leaves you exposed. And I don't know, it can just be a bit difficult, particularly when you start getting in close quarter combat with an opponent and they're really up in your face. It can be hard to get enough distance between you and them to actually be able to do a proper thrust. But anyway, maybe I'm just not very good at it, I don't know. Let me know what your experiences are like in the comments, or how I can improve my spear game. But yeah, I don't know, I just find it a bit challenging. Tend to prefer to use the sword and shield than spear and shield. Okay, so that's all the melee training. As I said, there's also those that chambering technique, but I'm not sure how to do that. So we'll do the range training now. It might be a good time to talk a little bit about the kind of character that we're going to play and how long this campaign will go for. So we're playing a Vlandian. We're going to eventually aim to be a kind of armored knight. So we'll start off with, you know, just a spear and a one-handed weapon. Eventually we'll get a shield. We'll have, I think, a horse at the start. We get a basic horse. So we'll be on horseback. But eventually we'll try to become an armored knight. So that'll be like a heavily armored horse, heavily armored character with a lance and a shield and then a sword for when we're on foot. So we'll be sword and shield on foot, and then a lance when we're on horseback. And we'll also use a crossbow if we need to. That's the only ranged weapon we'll use. We won't use throwing weapons or the bow and arrow, but we will use a crossbow. I figured that made the most sense given that our upbringing was like a yeoman, you know, small farmer and a peasant. Crossbows are the easiest ranged weapon to learn in medieval times. They did not require as much training as, say, for instance, the longbow. So that's what we will be using if we ever need to use ranged weapons. Plus, I feel like Vlandia is a little more reminiscent of medieval France than medieval Britain, but, you know, that just could be my bias as a way to justify using crossbows. Speaking of which, we'll now do the crossbow training. But yeah, crossbows definitely should be the easiest to use, although when you don't have great skill, you can still miss at distances like these because the crosshair's a bit big. It's hard to tell exactly where it'll go. See, this one I've missed 3 times. There we go, got it that time. Even though it sort of looked like it missed on my screen, but anyway. You don't need to aim up too much with crossbows at distant targets. The bolts shoot with quite a bit of power. which is surprising because this crossbow's hand-drawn, which is pretty unusual for crossbows in medieval times. Usually they were either foot-drawn or crank-drawn. Foot-drawn is where you like put the crossbow sort of down on the ground and you put your foot in that little I don't know if you can see it, that see where the crossbow like head is. There's that square sort of bracket at the end of the crossbow. Usually you'd put something like that on, you'd put that flat on the ground and then you would put your foot in it and then you would pull back the crossbow string and pull it over the nock to get a good amount of tension. So that's one way. Another way, there was like a crank drawn one, which is where you have this like cranking device that you attach and use to lever back the crossbow string. Alright, so we'll do the horse archery here. So yeah, that's what our character will be playing as. As I said, we'll be using spears on horseback, sword and shield on foot, spears and lances on horseback, and then crossbow if we need to use ranged weapons. Now we don't have to do that just because we're Vlandian. We absolutely could if we wanted to be, we could be a mounted cavalry archer and use, bow and arrow on horseback. We don't have to be a Khuzait to do that. But of course, Khuzait are the best at that in the game, in the sense that they've got all the good gear for being a mounted cavalry archer, and it fits their culture the most. So, but we could still absolutely do it if we wanted to. We would just have to recruit Khuzait troops if we wanted to fill our army with mounted archers. But we're going to stick with a more traditional approach for this campaign, I think. And in fact, we'll be aiming to start our campaign in Vlandia. Once the tutorial's over, we'll make our way over to Vlandia to start the game proper. Makes it look so easy, but it's... Oh, I don't want to miss the target, so I'm going to hit it. If mounted combat's too difficult while moving, just stop moving. Simple. Alright. And now we'll do the course with the spear and shield. I'll try to hit everything. It can be a bit difficult sometimes to hit targets with the spear. It's not so difficult with this with these pots, but when you're in the heat of battle and you're trying to maneuver your horse and you're looking around using the camera to dodge NPCs and see where everyone's at, but that's also what is determining where you're aiming and what kind of a swing attack you do. It can be a bit challenging, but it's not too bad with spear and lance, because there's we can only do a high attack or a low attack. But with swords, you'll see in a moment when we do the course with the sword, there's 4 different directions you can attack from, and sometimes you're trying to maneuver and you end up changing the direction that you were attacking from, or you end up missing your target entirely. And sometimes just the length can be deceiving. Like, there's no crosshair, there's nothing to tell you if you're going to hit. You just have to get a feel for it and practice with it and use your intuition. So it can sometimes be a bit challenging to tell when you should let go of the left mouse button to initiate the attack to get the distance right. Anyway, we did alright there, I suppose, but we'll see what I mean when we start fighting moving targets. Maybe it's just a me problem. I don't know if any of you have experienced similar. But yeah, you can see for sword, we can attack from the left, the right, up, or down. So it's a bit easier to miss sometimes when you're trying to maneuver your camera around to navigate. There's also, technically on the left and right, there's actually 2 directions. There's like an up high attack, which I'm demonstrating now, which swings sort of at your arm height, and then there's a down low attack, which I will try to demonstrate in a moment here. Oh, I missed that one. So this is the down low attack. You can see it's swinging lower and not at like arm length, or not at arm height, sorry, I should say. And obviously that's good for when you're chasing down targets that are fleeing on foot, you want to slash them in the back or something, that's the one you want to use. And when you're trying to hit targets that are on horseback, you use this this higher swing. Alright, we did pretty good. We only missed one target there. It's not too bad. Alright, that's the tutorial done. So we'll go back to our brother. Hopefully that's given you all a bit of a general gist of how combat works in Bannerlord, and maybe some ideas as to what you want to play with in your own campaign. Let's talk to Nagant. Are you ready to leave here? I am ready, let's go. You're at a training field, you can learn the basics of combat here. And we've already done that, so we're going to leave. And Nagant says, before we do anything else, we're low on food. There's a village north of here where we can buy provisions and find some help. You're a better rider than I am, so I'll let you lead the way. Let's go. So that's the village to the north. It's more northeast than north, but anyway. I guess it's technically still north. Alright, so this is the campaign map. And this is how you navigate the world of Calradia. You move around on the campaign map by left-clicking where you want to go. And then once it's done saving, it'll move your party. So this is our party, Arthur's party. And we can move around on the campaign map by left-clicking. As we move around, time will start to pass. So right now it's summer. We're on day 1 of the year 1084. It's around morning. And yeah, as we move around, time will start to move, you can see. And when we stop, it automatically pauses. Now, if we want to just let time pass while standing still, we can just hit spacebar or hit the play button here, and that'll spacebar pauses and unpauses. And we can also fast forward time if we want to move from location A to B faster than the regular time. So this is the world map, as I said, and all of the factions are represented on this map. All of the names that are showing up here, these are all the towns. So there's 3 types of settlements in Bannerlord. There are villages, which are like small little villages like this. Each village will produce a good, like a primary production good, like sheep or hogs, or this one I think produces silver ore, yep, hardwood. This is cotton, this is wheat. So all the villages produce primary goods. They produce a number of goods, but they'll tend to focus on, or they'll produce more of their primary good than any other good. And then the villagers will trade those goods to nearby towns, and they'll do that by little villager parties will travel across the map. So you can interact with them, you can buy their goods from them as they're traveling to town to sell them, or you can attack them and raid them and take their goods. So that's the basic level of settlement, is the village. And then up from the village you've got the castle, like Morenia Castle here. And then up from the castle you've got the town. And as I said, the town is what is named on the map here when you zoom all the way out. Tevea only shows because it's our current objective. That's the only reason that village shows up here. But anyway, we've got all the factions here. So down south we have the Asarai faction. And then north of them we've got where the Empire used to be, but you can see now it's split into 3 different factions. We've got the, I think that's the Southern Empire there, then we've got the Northern Empire in the more violet-y colour, and then we've got the Western Empire in I don't know what colour that is. It's all purple to me, to be honest, but yeah, so those are the 3 Empire factions. They're in civil war, so they're all fighting each other. So we've got Asarai, the Empire factions, then we've got the Khuzaits over here to the east. To the north we've got the Sturgians, and then in the forests here we've got the Battalions, and then last but not least we've got the Vlandians over on the coast here in the red. So these are all the factions. You can eventually create your own faction, or you can join these factions as a vassal or as a mercenary. There may also be other factions that pop up from time to time as other characters in the game, conquer territory, or territory that's been conquered rebels against the conquerors who've taken it. So the map is completely fluid and dynamic. All these settlements can be attacked, and these factions will go to war with each other and engage in war, and they'll have armies moving around on the campaign map attacking each other, and then attacking settlements, like raiding villages or sieging castles or sieging towns. So just another note on that, all villages are bound to either castles or towns, so you can't capture a village You can raid villages, but you can't capture them. If you want to take a village, you just have to take the town or the castle that it's bound to. So we can see the city here, the town of Phyceon, has the bound villages of Saldanus and Spodja, which are here and here. Whereas this castle, Lavenia Castle, for instance, has the bound villages of Lavenia and Etemisa. So Etemisa's here and Lavenia's here. Erebulos is bound to Danustica, which is here. You can see it says primary. Oh, sorry, it says bound settlement. And settlements and towns also have a culture which is attached to them. So all the ones in the middle here, they're all Empire culture, whereas these ones are all Aserai culture. These ones are all Khuzait culture, Sturgian culture, Battalion culture, and that'll basically make it harder for people who aren't of that culture to own and control those settlements. They're more likely to rebel and they'll be a bit less productive. Anyway, that's all late game stuff that we can get into. For now, we need to go to Tevea and buy some food. So I've explained the world map, I've explained how sort of time works. The only other thing to explain is the stuff at the bottom right here. So this is our gold that we have, dinars. Currently we've got 956. And we have an expected change of minus 44 because our party wage, which is shown here, is 44 gold, which means that we're paying the troops in our party 44 gold each day as wages. And we've only got one troop in our party, which is our brother Nagand. We don't pay ourselves a wage, obviously, but we do pay Nagand a wage of 44. So that's why we're losing 44 a day. So every day, I think at noon, or it might be at midnight, it's one of the two, but every day your wages will get deducted, and it is possible to hit 0 gold or to be unable to pay wages, in which case your troops will lose quite a bit of party morale and sometimes they'll desert. So that's gold. We've also got influence. Now influence doesn't matter right now because we are not a mercenary of a faction, and we're not a vassal of a faction, but it will matter once we are part of a faction for sort of taking political actions and recruiting lords to our army. And we've got our player health. Shows our hit points. We're currently at 100% health, 100 hit points. We have the amount of troops that are battle ready and the amount of troops that are wounded. Then we have how much food we have. Right now we've got 2.9 units of food and we're consuming 0.1 food a day. And as you can see, we've got 29 days until we're completely out of food. If we run out of food, our troops will start to starve. That'll affect party morale. They might desert. And then we've got party morale here, which starts at a base of 50. It's going up by 2 because of some of our personal statistics and skills, like leadership, ability, that sort of thing. But it's going down by 2 because we don't have a variety of food at the moment. If we got a greater variety of food, for instance, if we started to stock grapes and olives and meat and wheat and dates and butter and all sorts of things, then we would start to get a bonus to our party morale because our troops would be happy with getting a varied diet rather than just eating the same old thing all the time. Then we have the speed that our party travels at on the campaign map. Starts at a base of 4.98 and then it can go up or down based on other factors. So if we've got more cavalry, we'll get a bonus. If we have more infantry and less cavalry, we won't get as much of a bonus. We might get a detriment. If we're over encumbered, in that we're carrying too much cargo for the capacity we have, then we'll get a penalty for that. If we've got a lot of herd animals with us, like a lot of cattle or sheep, then we can also potentially get a penalty for herding a big herd of animals. And then also the type of terrain we're moving through will impact the speed and also whether it's day or night. So at night we move slower when moving through forest terrain or desert terrain or snow terrain. All the way up in the north here, will also move slower. So that's speed, and then we have view distance, which starts at a base of 12, goes up or down based on other factors. It'll go down at night. In the daytime, it'll be default, and it can go up if you've got a good scouting skill or a good scout. And there's some perks that'll affect it too. So that's the bottom right there. That's this. Then on the left-hand side, we've got our character sheet. Shows all of our skills, shows our attributes on the left, the skills relating to them, how many focus points we have in them, and that determines, like I said before, the learning rate. So currently for one-handed we've got a learning rate of 5.75, which means for for all the experience we get in one-handed is multiplied by 5.75, and then that will go into the ultimate XP that helps us level the skill. And learning rate's affected by the amount of focus points you put into it, but also your attributes. So currently we get +2 to one-handed learning rate because we've got 4 vigor, whereas for bow we only get +1 because we've only got 2 control. So it's just your attribute divided by 2. For endurance, for instance, it's +1.5 because 3 divided by 2. And at the top it tells us if we have any free attribute points, and it also tells us if we have any free focus points. Currently we've got 1, so we're going to allocate that to riding, which increases our learning rate from 2.75 up to 4. So we'll hit done there. Then we've got our inventory. On the right hand side it shows everything we've got in our inventory. We can filter to weapons, shields and ranged, armor, horse and harness, or misc. Miscellaneous items just being trade goods, food, that sort of thing. Right now it doesn't really change much because we don't have anything in our inventory except this grain, which we're using for food. Then we can also equip armor on the left here for our character, and then equip a different horse and give our horse armor or a harness. On the right we can select weapons and shields. So if you have a shield it goes here, if you have a weapon it goes here. Notably, ranged weapon arrows and crossbow bolts take up a slot here. So if you want to have 1 quiver of 30 arrows, that'll take up a slot. If you want to have 2, it'll take up 2 slots, but you'll have 60 arrows as a result. So you have to pick the balance you want there. It also shows us our skills here, although that's a little bit useless. And it shows us our encumbrance, which is the total equipped armor and weapon weight, and that will change our movement speed on foot. We can also select a civilian outfit, which is basically just what we'll wear when we're in towns traveling around, because clearly you're not going to wear all your full military regalia and garb when you're just walking around town looking for something to eat. Then we have the party screen. It shows all the troops we have in our party, and it also shows the party size limit. And the party size limit's based on our skills like leadership and also perks, and also our character's renown. The higher renown, more perks you have, more leadership skill you have, the more people you can recruit to your cause and have in your party. And we've also got capacity to take prisoners. The amount of prisoners we can take depends on how many troops you have in your party and also your roguery skill. So right now we can take 11 prisoners, but that'll go up as we recruit more people to our party and increase our roguery skill. And then last but not least, we've got the quest journal, and right now we've only got 1 active quest, which is to travel to village Tevea, because we're out of food and there's a village called Tevea north of here where we can buy provisions and find some help. So let's do that. We'll go to Tevea now, and I'll speed up the process. And here we are, we've arrived at the village, and now we're going to take a walk around the village. So the way that Bannerlord splits up the world is it splits it up into these scenes, and you travel between scenes by traveling on the campaign map. So I'll explain that in a bit, but let's just read what Nagan says. So we're here, I guess, so we need food, and after that, maybe some men to come with us. The headman here can probably help us. Let's try to find him. Alright, so we need to find the headman, and we can do that by holding the Alt key, and that'll highlight locations or people of importance within the settlement, and we can see the headman Jodon is up there, so we'll head up there. You can also see other NPCs walking around. We can talk to them, so we can talk to this peasant, but it looks like they've disabled that for the tutorial. So, but ordinarily you can talk to people. But anyway, this is a scene in Bannerlord. So when I say scene, I just mean it's like, think of like an interior cell in Skyrim or Oblivion. When you're in the scene, you can't just start traveling in any direction forever. Like if we started riding towards the horizon, we would just hit an invisible wall. We would not be able to travel to another village or to a town from this scene. If we want to travel to another village or town, we have to exit the scene, which we'll do in a bit, go back to the campaign map, travel to that new village or town, and then enter the scene to enter that village or town. So the game is not fully, like the world is not fully connected, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's split up into these scenes. And the same is true of battles as well. When you engage other parties on the campaign map in battle, you enter a scene. Okay, so this is Headman Joron. Let's talk to him. I am Joron, headman of this village. What brings you here? We need help. Some raiders have taken our younger brother and sister captive, and we think they may have passed this way. Ah, they got your people too. Sorry to hear that. Those bastards have done a bit of killing and looting in these parts as well. We think they've gone north. I reckon there are a few folk around here who'll join you in going after them if you'll pay for their gear. Once you've made your preparations, come and talk to me again. I may have a task for you if you're going after the raiders. Okay, so now we're going to leave the mission by holding tab. That'll return us to the settlement menu. And now we've got some new options. We can recruit troops. Each of these troops is going to cost us 50 gold to recruit, and they're each going to have a wage of 8 gold a day. So we're going to recruit them all. Now they're all cavalry, and you can tell that not just because they're sitting on horses, but also because they've got this cavalry icon here. And you can also see that they're all tier 4 troops, which is denoted by this little up arrow here. Okay, so that'll cost us 300 gold. We'll pay that. And now we'll buy some grain. Now this grain is incredibly expensive at 35 gold a pop. You can tell that because when you hover over here, 1, it's in red, but 2, it says this item is 250% more expensive than average. Now generally gold is like grain is like 5 or 6 gold, but the average price is usually around 10. But you can get it from certain places that make a lot of grain, and because they make a lot, high supply, low demand, so the price is lower. Alright, pay 100 gold for that. We have finished our preparations. Let's talk to the headman again. He had said he may have a task for us. We could use his friendship. So there's 2 ways you can talk to important people in settlements. That'd be like village elders and just important nobles and important merchants. You can either enter the village or enter the settlement and walk around and find them physically and then go up and talk to them. Or you can just click their icon in the top pane here and talk to them this way. So we're going to do that now. Usually you can just hit talk, but we're going to have to hit visit for the purposes of the tutorial. Okay, Headman Joran says, glad to see you found what you needed. Now, about that matter I mentioned earlier. There's this wandering doctor who comes through here from time to time, name of Tactios. Treats people for free. We're fond of him. Well, anyway, we last saw him a few days ago. He was carrying some sort of chest, which he was very mysterious about. He was on some sort of quest. He said, though, wouldn't tell us more. As an aside, dear viewer, you will note that the writing is not always the best in terms of the grammar and how they structure sentences, like using the phrase sort of twice in the same paragraph is a bit bad. The way that they've split up the he said here is also a bit odd for a native English speaker anyway. But, considering it's a Turkish development company, I think they've done pretty well. And let's be honest, most people play Bannerlord for the open world sandbox and not so much for the story elements. Anyway, Joran says he set off on the road just a few hours before the raiders came through here. Well, he's not really a worldly type, just the kind of fellow who'd stumble into a trap and let himself be captured. We're worried about him. If you can keep an eye out for him, this Tactios, we'd be very grateful. Maybe, if he's alive and well, he'll tell you a little more about his quest. Okay. So we'll keep an eye out for Tactios, and we're going to leave the scene again. And now we're going to leave the village outright. And we now have to locate and rescue the traveler, Tactios, by looking around the village to find the party that captured him. And to do that, we've got to defeat 3 enemy parties. And that's these parties here, the raiders that have spawned. So we're going to attack this one because it's right near us. And that other one has reinforced this group as well. So we're going to be fighting 8 versus 12, but we should still outnumber them here in terms of the strength of our troops because we've got cavalry and they're all on foot. Okay, so now comes the fun part of Bannerlord. You're actually in a battle scene. These are your troops. You can control them and maneuver them around the battle map, but they are all AI controlled, so you don't have to micromanage them and make them attack or anything. You can just give them general directions. So we do that with the function keys. So we can do a number of things, and it's pretty cool. It slows time when you're giving orders, which is great. But as you can see on the left, we can order them to move forward. We can order them to follow us. We can just order them to engage or fall back. We can also have them mount or dismount, hold fire. We can also change their formation. Currently they're in line formation, but we can change that if we want. Or we can use the tried and true battle tactic of Mountain Blade Warband, which is F1 and F3, which just makes all of your troops charge. So we're going to do that.
Lead them.
And hopefully we'll be able to get some good hits in here too. Now, it probably wasn't the best idea to have them charge into the river because it slows, like traveling through water slows you down. So that would have, you know, unfortunately slowed us all down, which would have reduced the damage we do. You'll also note we do some damage with, oh, I got a bad hit there. In fact, let's get all of our guys to follow me. We'll get up onto land, I think, because we've lost 2 guys already. We haven't taken out any of them, so let's get onto some solid land and not fight in the river. But yeah, I was saying, you'll have noticed we did some charge damage with our horse, and it was only like 1 damage per hit. It's unfortunately not the greatest charge damage. I think honestly it's a bit underpowered. I'd like to see it be buffed a bit, because it just doesn't seem too worthwhile to me. Okay, we kill 1. Gained a level. You'll also notice at the bottom left it's telling us like how much damage we're doing, what body part we're hitting, how much the relative movement speed of us against the target is affecting. Ow, how did that guy hit me? Is affecting how much damage we're doing. And that's all important because, like I said earlier, you raise your skill by using your skill basically. So if we want to raise our polearm skill, we have to use polearms, which is what we're doing now, and you can see because we're doing it on horseback, our riding skill is going up too. And that's all impacted by how much damage you do. So the more damage you do with your weapon, the more experience you will get, and the faster you'll raise your skill. So obviously it's really great to charge a... damn it, I got knocked out. That was not intended. That's what happens when you focus on talking too much. So we're down to 2 troops against 4. So anyway, we can follow the character by left clicking and change our perspective, or we can just zoom out like this. We can also fast forward the battle by clicking F or toggling speed. So it's 1v2. Hopefully we can, hopefully our guy wins this. Looks like he might. Let's see. He should win. I mean, he's on horseback. Yeah, okay. So we won that by the skin of our teeth. But yeah, as I said, the more damage you do with your weapon, the more experience you should get. So if you want to maximize your damage, you want to charge your opponent as fast as possible and have them charge you as fast as possible, and then whack the crap out of them without getting hit by them. And you'll do the most damage that way, and you should get the most experience. That's for melee weapons anyway. I think it might be different for ranged. Anyway, we won. Took us 4 minutes and 12 seconds. We gained 1.4 morale. 7 of our troops were wounded, so they'll have to recover. None of them were killed. None of them routed. There were 12 kills in total because there were 12 enemy, and we had 1 guy remaining. And on their side, they got 7 kills, 7 knocked out. 3 of them died, 9 of them were wounded. So we plundered 200 gold. We actually rescued some troops that were being held prisoner by the bandits, so we can recruit them for free. Obviously we'll have to pay them wages. And we can also take Ragosa's raiders prisoner, so we'll do that. And we also get some loot, so we can get these tattered wrapped arm guards and equip them. Noting though that they have no armor, so these tattered rough tied braces are actually better because they have 6 arm armor. So we'll put those on instead, and then we'll take the other ones just into our inventory. Okay, and we'll actually sell this gear that we've looted to the village because we don't need it. And we also leveled up, so we can assign another focus point. I think we'll put it into riding. And we also got a perk because we increased our polearm skill beyond the first threshold to unlock the first set of perks. So these choices are all mutually exclusive. You'll get 1 perk point in the relevant skill each time you cross one of these thresholds. We can't use this perk point in any other skill. It's a polearm perk point, so we've got to use it here. And we can't unlock any of the other skills here until we first unlock these perks. So you can't just save up all your perks and then use them all on the, the last bunch of ones. I mean, they're all mutually exclusive anyway. So we get a choice here between Cavalry and Pikeman. The Cavalry perk has 2 effects. One of them is a personal effect, just the top one, and the other one is a captain effect. Now what that means is the personal effect will always impact us, because it's personal to us, whereas the captain effect will only apply if we are acting as the captain of a formation in another lord's army. So it's not really relevant until we join a faction either as a mercenary or as a vassal. But anyway, we're going to be playing mainly on mounted combat when we're using polearm, so we're going to go with cavalry rather than pikemen. And we're done. And now we'll attack these raiders, if we can catch them. So you can hold Alt on the world map to see your speed and the enemy's speed, and also how many prisoners they have and how many you have and how many are wounded. But we've caught up with them here, so we'll attack them. And we're just going to F1, F3 this one. Have our troops engage, and we'll use our polearm, not our mace. So he blocked that, which is annoying. Now you wouldn't think enemies would be able to block a cavalry charging them at full tilt with a spear, but you would be wrong, my friend, because it's very easy to parry, apparently, in Bannerlord. You don't need a shield. You can parry any incoming blow, no matter how fast the rider is going. So one of the things that, again, I think they need to buff a bit with cavalry. Cavalry is a little bit underpowered in Bannerlord, because the charge damage from horses is quite low, and when you knock down enemy infantry with the charge, they get up pretty quickly, so they don't really get the wind knocked out of them too much. And also they can parry your thrusts with the spear. So it's, yeah, cavalry need to be buffed a bit in my opinion, particularly since they added the ability for infantry who are wielding spears to create a proper spear wall. So there's a proper counter now to cavalry, and I think it's probably about time they buffed cavalry a bit, provided that they teach the AI how to use those spear wall formations properly. There we go, 2 kills, that was alright. Alright, last guy. I missed him completely. I was trying to not go too close to him because I didn't want to get hit by him. Yeah, thrust too early there. You see, that's what I was talking about earlier when we were doing tutorials. Sometimes you can let go a bit too early. There we go, finally got him. So our polearm skill is now 30, our riding skill is now 24. None of our guys died, but a few of them were knocked unconscious. We got 0.9 morale. And we can take some more prisoners, recruit some more troops, and got a bit more loot. So you rescue several prisoners that the raiders had been dragging along. They look parched and exhausted. You give them a bit of water and bread, and after a short while, one staggers to his feet and comes over to you. I don't know who you are, but I'm in your debt. These brigands would have marched us to our deaths. My name's Tactios. I'm a doctor by trade. I was on, well, a bit of a quest, but now I'm thinking I'm not really made for this kind of thing. I was with a caravan and they just came out of the brush. We were surrounded and outnumbered, so we gave up. I figured they'd keep us alive, if just for the ransom, but then they started flogging us along at top speed, without any water, and I was just about ready to drop. I could feel the signs of heat stroke creeping up, and I told them, but they just flogged me more. If your group hadn't come along, maybe I have a way to thank you properly. We're looking for 2 children captured by the raiders. Can you tell us anything? I'm afraid I haven't seen any children, but after our caravan was attacked, the chief of the raiders, the one they call Ragosa, took and rode off with our more valuable belongings, including a chest that I had. He seemed to be controlling more than one band raiding around this area. If this lot has your kin, then I think he'd be the one to know. And since I have nothing of value left to repay your help, I'll tell you this. If you do catch up with and defeat that ruffian, you may be able to recover my chest. It contains a valuable ornament which I was told could be of great value, if you knew where to sell it. I was trying to find out more about it, but, as I say, I've had all my urge for travelling flogged out of me. Right now, I don't think I'd venture more than 20 paces from a well as long as I live. Well, we'll keep that in mind. It doesn't look like much, and I suspect this lot would give it away for a few coins, but I got it from a mercenary whom I treated once, and he swore it was related to Nareza's Folly. I don't know what that means, except that Nareza was, of course, the emperor who died in battle some years back. Maybe you can find out its true value. Thanks for saving me again. I hope our paths will cross again. Again, you know, using the word again twice in such short space of time is a bit unnatural. So, you'll notice some of the writing isn't always the best. But alright, we've now got a new quest to find the hideout of Ragosa's gang and defeat them, and the game has very helpfully shown us that his hideout is here. So we'll go up there and attack his hideout. And we've arrived, let's attack. Okay, so we've loaded into the hideout, we've got our troops with us, we're just going to tell them to follow us. And we can see we've got 7 raiders that are defending Ragosa's hideout. So we'll need to take them out. And then hopefully we can find Ragosa himself, and maybe if we're lucky our brother and sister will be here as well. But maybe not, we'll see. Okay, cool, nice. Got another level. Increased our athletic skill because we're doing combat on foot now, so it's increasing our athletic skill rather than our riding skill. And obviously still using polearms, so we're getting experience with polearms. The higher your athletic skill as well, the faster your character will maneuver. So if you're planning on playing an infantryman on foot a lot, you'll definitely want to get your athletic skill up, because having fast move speed is very useful, particularly when you're wearing heavy armor, which is you know, going to slow you down. You'll want a good athletic skill to counteract that. There's also some perks you can take which help with that as well. Okay, we've got 5 left. Now the difficulty with these hideout battles is if you, the player character, die, you lose the battle. Even if you've still got plenty of troops left over, they'll just retreat, you'll have to try again. So there's a few enemy infantry here. We're going to wait for our boys to catch up and probably let them do the grunt work on these 2 guys, because we're being a bit risky running in with a spear against you know, infantrymen, particularly when we don't have a shield. So we're a bit exposed if we particularly when my vision's blocked by our friendly troops' icons. We can change the transparency of those icons, and you can also turn them off, so that might be something we look into. One of our guys just got poked to death. Or knocked unconscious. Yeah, knocked unconscious. Okay. This must be Ragosa. So, who's this that comes through my place of business, killing my employees? I don't know why I made him Russian, but we're just gonna roll with it. We heard you took our little brother and sister. Where are they? Good heaven, I'll need a better description than that. My men have harvested dozens of little brats in the region. Quite good hunting grounds. Already sent most of them south to a slave market, I know, though. Since your hunt for your kin is fruitless, how about you clear off and save your own lives? Either that, or I force you to lick up all the blood you've spilled here with your tongues. Or you and I could settle this, one-on-one. We're going to duel him because our character is daring and noble, and we have to accept a duel if offered. So very well, I'll duel you. Alright, and now we just have to not lose, because I'm pretty sure Ragosa can one-shot us, given that our health is half. Okay, maybe not one-shot us, but certainly two-shot us. Gosh, he's got a lot of health, doesn't he? We weren't doing much damage to him. But it did increase our one-handed and athletics by quite a bit, so that's good. We're very lucky we didn't die there. But anyway, we won. These guys are just standing there. They're not going to do anything. So, anyway, there we go. So we won. We got 1.6 morale. We got 100% of the loot. And let's hit done. So we can take some more prisoners. And as you can see, we've hit our prisoner limit, so it won't take those prisoners. Now, we can force the game to let us take those prisoners. But when you're over your prisoner limit, it makes it a lot easier for prisoners to escape. So it's generally a bad idea to go over your prisoner limit, because then all of your high value prisoners that are like, you know, tier 5 for instance, will escape, and all your low value ones like tier 1 will stick around. So generally you don't want to go over your prisoner limit. So we'll just hit done. And we get some more loot here. Nothing better for us to equip, so we'll just take it. Well, I recognize defeat when I see it. If I'm going to be your captive, let me introduce myself. I am Ragosa. You haven't cut my throat yet, which was a wise move. I'm sure I can find a way to be worth more to you alive than dead. Well, you better help us get our brother and sister back, or you'll swing from a tree. Oh, you'll need my help, alright. If you want to get them back. Alive, that is. See, my boys have some pretty specific instructions about what to do if there's a rescue attempt. Shall we get on the road? Remember, if I drop dead of exhaustion, or drown in some river, that's it for your little dears. I don't expect a cozy palanquin now, but you'd best not make it too hard a trip for me. I don't know what a palanquin is. I assume it's a bed or a cot. But anyway, we come across a chest with an old piece of bronze in it. It's so battered and corroded that it could have been anything from a cup to a crown. This must be the chest Tactios mentioned to you. It had something to do with Nareza's Folly. And again, I was hoping to find more treasure here, but I think business wasn't going too well for Ragosa and his gang. I found this strange looking metal piece though. It doesn't look too valuable, but it could be the artifact Tactios was talking about. Maybe we can sell it to one of the noble clans for a hefty price. Alright then, let's get on the road. I have a better idea. We would have a better chance if we split up now. I'll take Ragosa and go find the slaver market and look for a way to free the children. However, we must be careful not to endanger their lives, and it could be better to just buy them. We need to have our purses full for that, though. I'll need to take these men with us. Ragosa is a slippery one. I don't want him getting away. So you want me to raise the money to ransom the little ones? Indeed, you'll have to find a way to do that. Maybe this bronze thing can help. Tactios said it could be worth a fortune to the right person, if you manage not to get killed. If he's telling the truth, you must be careful. Never reveal that you have it. Try to understand its value and how it can be sold. One more thing. When you are talking to nobles and other people of importance, make sure you present yourself as someone from a distant but distinguished family. You can use our family name if you like, or make up a new one. You will have a better chance of obtaining an audience with nobles, and it'll be easier for me to find you by asking around. Alright, and we're going to use the name Pendragon. Arthur Pendragon, clearly not based on any myth of legend. Okay. And now we get to select our banner. So we're going to go for red as the background. And I think we'll keep gold as the sigil color because it looks good. And for the actual symbol, we will select the lion. Very traditional, medieval sort of color combination and sigil here. Make the size a bit bigger. There we go, looks good. So this is Arthur Pendragon, and this is our banner. There are other colors that go well with the red, like white, but we'll just stick with the gold, I think. And there we go. The tutorial is over, and we're now free to explore Calradia. We've also found our first banner piece. On the second day of summer 1084, we found the artifact which Tactios mentioned. And that's it. We are now in the game proper. We've got 1,000 gold. We've got 2.9 food. We have no one in our party except us, and we're now ready to go and explore Calradia. We've got 2 quests to pursue. First quest is we have to establish our clan. Calradia is a land full of peril, but also opportunities. To face the challenges that await, you will need to build up your clan. Your brother told you that there are many ways to go about this, but that none forego coin. Trade would be one means to this end, fighting and selling off captured bandits in town another. Whatever path you choose to pursue, traveling alone would make you easy pickings for whomever came across your trail. You know that you can recruit men to follow you from the notables of villages and towns, though they may ask you for a favor or two of their own before they allow you access to their more valued fighters. Naturally, you may also find more unique characters in the taverns of Calradia. However, these tend to favor more established clans. So we've got a few goals here. We need to increase our dinars by 1,000 to have a total of 2,000. Currently we've only got 1,000. We've also got to grow our party to 20 men. We have to reach clan tier 1, which requires us to get 50 renown, so we'll need another 30. And then we have to hire 1 companion. And we've also got this other quest called Investigate Nareza's Folly, and as you explore Calradia, you can learn more about your artifact and its importance by asking any lord or lady about the Empire's recent history. So we've got to talk to 10 people about Nareza's Folly. So we'll aim to do that as well. But we will leave that for another time. Thank you for joining me for this episode. This one has been a bit of a longer one because of doing the tutorial and explaining in quite some detail a lot of the game mechanics and functions and how things work. In the next episode, we will make our way over to Vlandia, over here to the west, and we'll start recruiting people to our party and try and achieve those goals, get to clan tier 1, and just see where we can go from there. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you next time.